nominate Ralph Rins to act as president pro temp for the beginning of the meeting.
We need to acclaim somebody.
Yeah, that's what she's doing. That's what she's doing right there.
Oh, no, all right, so you don't want to nominate, you want, by acclamation, we're calling Ralph Pro Tem?
I believe, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good evening, everybody. And for those sitting in the audience tonight, we have two meetings. One each year required by state law. All Board of Educations have to reorganize prior to the 15th of January. And we have a number of standing authorizations as well that we'll go through. And then we'll take and close that meeting, and then we will open up for the regular January Board of Education meeting. So the first item on the agenda is the roll call. Mr. Phillips.
Taylor Christian? Here. Amy White?
Here.
Terry Lally,
Here.
Ralph Wentz,
Here.
Brian Bagwell.
Here.
It's not on the agenda, but let us stand and say the pledge here first, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda will be the election of a president for the 21 calendar year. At this time, I entertain a nominations from the floor for the selection of president.
I'd like to nominate Ralph Wentz again.
Okay, Amy White has nominated me, Ralph Wentz. Are there any other nominations from the floor?
I'll nominate myself.
Okay, Taylor Christian is nominating himself. And are there any other nominations? If not, at this time, seeing we have two nominations, we'd ask Mr. Phillips, we'll first close the nominations. Can I have a motion to close nominations?
I motion.
Okay, I second.
Okay, Amy, or Terry makes the motion, Amy seconds, and at this time, Mr. Phillips, would you please?
This is just going to be one roll call and say which one you're voting for.
Okay,
Mr. Christian,
Taylor Christian.
Mrs. Lally,
Mr. Wentz.
Mrs. White,
Mr. Wentz.
Mr. Wentz,
Mr. Wentz.
Mr. Bagwell,
Mr. Wentz.
Okay, seeing that I was had a 4-1 vote, we will now declare that Ralph Wentz will be the president for the 21 school year. Next up is the election of a vice president. At this time, we would take nominations from the floor for the election of a vice president for the school year or calendar year of 2021.
I'd like to nominate Brian Bagwell for vice president.
Okay, Brian Bagwell has been nominated. Do we have any other nominations from the floor for vice president? Okay, seeing as there is none, I would like to close the nominations. Can we have a motion to close them?
So moved. Taylor.
Taylor moves. Can I have a second?
I second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I believe we can just, Mr. Phillips, you can declare that Brian Bagwell will be the vice president for the calendar year of 2021. At this time, we will stop the meeting and Mr. Phillips will issue the oaths of office to the president and vice president.
if you'll raise your right hand and left hand on the Bible. Do you have the script? Okay.
Print it off.
Do you need this?
I, Ralph Wentz,
I, Ralph Wentz,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
as President of the Board
as President of the Board
in and for the said South Range Local School District,
in and for the said South Range Local School District,
Mahoning County, Ohio,
Mahoning County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws now in effect
and in accordance with the laws now in effect
and hereafter to be enacted
and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor is chosen and qualified.
and until my successor is chosen and qualified.
Congratulations. Thank you. Anybody here? I, Brian Bagwell, do solemnly swear
I, Brian Bagwell, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
as President of the Board,
as Vice President of the Board
you're right, and in and for the said South Range Local School District,
and in and for the said South Range Local School District,
Mahoning County, Ohio,
Mahoning County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws now in effect
and in accordance with the laws now in effect
and hereafter to be enacted
and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor is chosen and qualified.
and until my successor is chosen and qualified.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I had the president. That's it.
Okay, moving forward, we have a number of standing authorizations that we need to go through. First up is the compensation for board members. Ms. Carlson?
Yes, every year the board members are paid $125 per meeting, up to 12 meetings, as well as the annual meeting at the Mahoning County Educational Service Center. So we're asking to continue this.
Okay, next up, the service fund for board members.
Yes, we always set aside $5,000 for the service fund. This is a continuation.
Membership in the Ohio School Boards Association.
Every year we do apply not just for the membership for the association, but also the legal assistance fund. This organization offers us professional development for all of you, as well as Mr. Phillips and I, so we can work together as a team.
Next would be the liability, property, and fleet insurance.
Again, just asking that we continue to allow the treasurer and CFO to purchase liability, property, fleet insurance for the board, its employees, volunteers, and support organizations.
Next up, treasurer pro temp.
In the absence of, in the absence from a meeting for the board, if the board will choose one of the members to be a treasurer pro temp. So if Mr. Phillips or a treasurer cannot be here, we would need you guys to identify somebody to be the treasurer pro temp.
Regular meeting date, time, and place for 2021. We always have been the third Monday. Is that, I guess I'd ask everybody, is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Well, and help me remember, we pass, when we go to pass this, we pass it, but we probably are changing the February.
We
meeting.
changed the February last meeting. We already set it for the
We already
8th.
set that, okay. Administrative mileage?
Yeah, again, just anytime the administrators need to travel to any school-related functions, they can get reimbursed at the IRS travel rate.
compliance officers.
This year, I am nominating Sherry Lewis and Steve Matos. The law has changed. I actually cannot be the compliance officer because I need to be the person they can report to after they do their investigation, and then I have to be the final decider. So the two of them have gone through the training, and they are our compliance officers. They stepped up, and I appreciate it.
Okay. OSBA legislative liaison for student achievement. We need to appoint somebody.
So last year, we had Terry Lally as the legislative, and we had Taylor Christian as the student achievement liaison. Would you two like to remain in your positions, or Taylor, would you like to look for?
I'm good with whatever. If someone else wants to do it, absolutely take it, but if not, then I'll continue to do it.
Amy, are you interested in the student liaison one?
No, I mean, that's fine with me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we'll keep those then when we go through the resolutions.
Next up, a number of standing authorizations.
Okay, every year we ask that the board approve that the treasurer CFO is authorized to secure advances from the county auditor when funds are available and payable to the school district. The treasurer CFO is authorized to invest interim funds whenever funds are available. The superintendent and/or treasurer CFO be authorized to purchase the services of architects, attorneys, engineers, or other professional consultants from the Ohio School Board Association, Neola, and the Buckeye Association of School Administrators, Baylog, Stein, Hetrick, and Manchester Architects, Ennis Britton, LPA, Squire, Patton, and Boggs, LLP, Smith, Peters, and Khalil and Harrington, Hop and Mitchell, LTD, Gingo and Bear, or other private consultants as may be necessary or useful to advise the board in matters of financial, personal, contract development, insurance, computers, purchasing, or any other legitimate matters affecting the Board of Education's concerns. Superintendent be designated as the purchasing agent for the school district. The superintendent is authorized to employ such temporary personnel as may be needed for emergency situations or other persons on an ad hoc basis. Such employees shall be presented for approval to the board at the next regular meeting. Treasurer CFO is authorized to pay all bills within the limits of the appropriations as bills are received and when the merchandise service has been received in good condition and in timely manner. Treasurer CFO is authorized to borrow such funds as may be necessary to meet the expenses of the district within the confines of the Ohio law. Treasurer CFO is empowered to sign payroll checks and board warrants. The school district shall continue to participate in the state and federal programs in which it is now participating. The board will accept and use the federal funds distributed to the Ohio Department of from the Ohio Department of Education in keeping with the district's consolidated application, CCIP. Title I funds of $103,909.95. Title IIA funds of $23,210.29. IDEA funds, $244,928.45. Title IV-A, $10,000. EOEC funds of $2,224.71. Total CCIP equaling $384,273.40. These funds will be used according to approved state and federal guidelines. This approval extends to modifications which may be made according to approved guidelines throughout the year in the funding, purpose, or management of these programs. The superintendent is authorized to approve school district participation in other government programs, community programs, or privately sponsored programs as may be necessary or useful to the public or to the pupils, staff, or other legitimate concerns of the board. Superintendent is authorized to approve the attendance of school employees, the treasurer, CFO, and his or her own attendance at professional meetings. The Board of Education authorized the superintendent or treasurer, CFO to request and use the services of either or both of these management services: the Office of School Management Assistance of the State Department of Education, the Management Advisory Service of the Office of Keith Faber, Auditor of the State, and other management services when they feel it is necessary or useful to do so. The superintendent is authorized to present, speak for, and vote on behalf of the board in consortia in which it participates, including Access, OSBC, Northeast 8 Athletic League, NE8, and the Ohio Coalition for Equity and Adequacy of School Funding and other consortia or similar organizations or successor organizations to this listed. Superintendent is the designee of the board for appeals of suspensions of pupils by a principal. Administrative dues and fees encumbered, other than personal licensure, which is specific to employment at South Range Local School District, shall be paid by the Board of Education. The treasurer CFO to manage the currently established petty cash accounts in accordance with the South Range Board of Education policy number 6625. Declares as a matter of policy that purchasing coffee, meals, refreshments, and other amenities for officers, guests, and employees further a public function as long as they are provided in conjunction with a legitimate public activity, and such provision is not manifest arbitrary or unreasonable, and the board further declares that providing alcoholic beverages is categorically not for public purpose and shall not be provided at public expense.
Okay, before we go back and vote on these standing authorizations, I'd ask if anybody has a question about any of these items that are listed in the reorganizational meeting. You're welcome to step up to the microphone at this time, state your name, and you would have 2 minutes to comment. Okay, seeing as there's none, we will go back through and vote on all of these standing authorizations. First up is the compensation for board members. May I have a motion?
I motion.
Terry makes the motion. Can I have a second?
Brian seconds.
Brian seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, service fund for board members. May I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Amy moves. Is there a second?
Taylor seconds.
Taylor makes a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Membership in OSBA for this year. May I have a motion?
Brian moves.
Brian moves and Taylor seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, liability, property, and fleet insurance. May I have a motion for that?
I motion.
Terry makes the motion. May I have a second?
I second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion to accept treasurer pro temp?
Taylor moves.
Taylor makes the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
We'll give that one to Terry. Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, our regular meeting dates, time, and place for the 2021 calendar year. May I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Brian moves. May I have a second?
I second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is administrative mileage. May I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Amy moves. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the compliance officer. May I have a motion for that?
Taylor moves.
Taylor makes the motion. May I have a second?
Brian seconds.
Brian makes a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up are two selections for the OSBA Legislative Liaison and the Student Achievement Liaison. May I have a motion to accept those names?
So moved.
Amy moves. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And lastly, the numerous standing authorizations. May I have a motion to accept those?
I'll motion.
Terry makes the motion. May I have a second?
I second.
Brian
Brian
seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, the adjournment for the reorganizational meeting. May I have a motion for that?
I motion.
We'll have Terry makes the motion and Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned.
Which ones legislative and which
Cleveland?
ones?
That's why I didn't say, you're gonna have to ask her, I forget.
And that's just state,
Taylor's,
they have coming out of the state.
she's a student one, he's
There's some legislation,
Okay.
sure.
political news every day.
Terry? Are you legislative or student?
Legislative.
I don't, like I said, just have to sit through it. It's not that bad of a read, but it's every day, it's fine.
Also, like, going through the emails that we get through, some of them are just like, recommend, or, and it's like, wow, we've already known that, and it's like, past the time we get to the meeting.
Yeah, so we kind of.
Board, you ready to go then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we are again. We normally, in a normal year, a lot of times we have cake and
Coffee?
punch and coffee to share, but in the world of COVID, we're not doing that this year, and we will go right on into our regular January board meeting. Mr. Phillips, would you please call the roll?
Well, first, I would like to recognize the board. January is Board Recognition Month, and the cake and everything that we usually do is in celebration of that. So maybe a little round of applause or a big round of applause for our board members. Okay, Taylor Christian.
Here.
Terry Lally.
Here.
Amy White.
Here,
Ralph Wintz.
Here.
Brian Bagwell.
First up is the approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on December 21st, 2020. If there are no additions or corrections, I'd entertain a motion to accept those.
I motion.
Terry makes a motion. May I have a second?
Taylor seconds.
Taylor makes a second. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And on to Mr. Phillips and the treasurer's report.
Okay, our regular general fund at the end of December had $3,130,062.65. Nothing too remarkable. I always tell you about the grants. You could see they're pretty well in debt, and they're in the red, and I will be doing a cash request hopefully before the 20th of this month. So probably by the end of this month, that figure will go down. So our total, all funds, is $4,258,008.73. Okay, and of the $4,308,947.43 in banks, it would be $3,020,704.23 at Farmers, $1,046,631.84 at Premier, and Star Ohio, $241,611.36. Our outstanding checks were $51,718.70. Our petty cash, as always, $780. And when you do all that math, we do proof out and get the balances with the bank and our financial report, $4,258,008.73.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Phillips on the treasurer's report? Seeing as there's none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Taylor moves.
Taylor makes a motion. May I have a second?
I second.
Amy makes a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And on to new business and Mrs. Carlson and Board of Education recognition month.
As Mr. Phillips said, we are greatly
I'm sorry.
appreciative. That's okay. We're greatly appreciative. We both get to say something. We did receive certificates from the Ohio School Board Association. I have those in the bag for you. We thank you very much for this year. It's been very trying, and your support and assisted leadership this year has been greatly appreciated. So we thank all of you for stepping up and taking on such a task that none of us thought we were going to have to deal with. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we move on to district reports and good news, and back to Mrs. Carlson.
Okay, I'm going to hand the mic over to Mr. Matos.
Evening, everyone. We'll start tonight with our first grade. This is from Mrs. Fullerton. Mrs. Fullerton's first graders were learning how to write a friendly letter with key components such as writing the heading, greeting, body, closing, and signature. In order to practice writing letters, they wrote to the Go Noodle company. Go Noodle is a program that's used in the classroom with students to give them a brain break exercise, and this is used all across the country. Each child in the class wrote to a different character from Go Noodle and expressed their appreciation of the program. And the team at Go Noodle did write back to the first graders, and they included some merchandise for all the boys and girls, and they have designated Mrs. Fullerton's room as a Go Noodle zone. So thank you to Mrs. Fullerton for turning that in. For Mrs. Tharp, in third grade, she just wants to thank everyone, thank the board. It's been wonderful to be back in school as much as we have. Our third graders, actually all of our K through 4 students are finishing their second round of Ames Web testing, and they just say how wonderful it is to see the huge gains that all the boys and girls are making. In Mrs. Tharp's class in third grade, she's doing some distant group work. It's something, you know, they usually do a little bit closer in small groups, but now they're doing some distance group work. And she says that the boys and girls just love having a partner, even being a little bit further away from each other. Some thank yous tonight. First to our PTO. It's been a little bit different this year with our PTO and what they've been able to do. But before winter break, they still put together treat bags for all of our boys and girls, whether they were in school or remote. And so we really appreciate that. They weren't able to do their annual auction this year, but they have an online fundraiser they're currently doing. They're selling elementary apparel online and just still continuing to support our teachers in the classroom with materials. Thank you tonight to our resource room teachers, Mrs. Martz, Miss Manchester, and Mrs. A. During our 2 days of remote learning on the Tuesday before we went on Christmas break, we met virtually with all of their students so that we could read some holiday stories to them. They invited me to come on, and it was just nice to see the boys and girls to read A Charlie Brown Christmas to them. And all the teachers and the aides in the resource room were able to get on and do some reading with the students. And then a final thank you today is to Terry Davis. If you know Terry Davis, she's a longtime aide in the elementary for the past 25 years. This year would have been her 25th. Specifically, she's been up in the resource room working one-on-one and with small groups of students. And Terry retired at the end of December. We just want to thank her for all of her years of service with us. She was a wonderful aide, wonderful person, and we just hope that I hope she enjoys her retirement. And then finally, just some upcoming events. Friday, January 22nd is the end of the second grading period. Report cards will go home on the 29th. Thursday, February 11th will be our parent-teacher conferences. And then on Tuesday, February 26th, we will celebrate the 100th day of school in the elementary. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Matos. Good evening, everybody. Certainly good to be here. It's been a while for me. First, it being Board of Education Recognition Month, I know I speak for the entire middle school when I thank the board for their support of our students and staff. Not a whole lot at the middle school. We did have Chloe Shod. She was named our 5th grade student of the month for her exemplary work in all of her classes. And then finally, on the athletic front, after numerous schedule disruptions and quarantines and those kinds of things, our middle school sports teams are in full swing and experiencing a lot of success on the court and on the wrestling mat. So again, hope you all had a great holiday season, and thank you for all your support.
Hey, thank you very much. With the fact that we just came back to school, Mr. Rowan, Ms. Lewis will have more the next month because, as I said, we're doing testing. Anything from legislative or
I don't
student?
have anything today.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Next up will be our annual renewal for open enrollment for the 21-22 school year. Mrs. Carlson?
Yes, as you said, the annual renewal, I'm asking that the board approve that we continue open enrollment. As it says in this, we will very carefully evaluate each grade level's size to make sure it is not negatively impacting our academics of our students. We will begin first with welcoming back our students who are presently open enrolled students, and then opening it up to the area community.
Okay, next item on the agenda will be the rollover and approval of our agreement with the South Range Education Association and the South Range Local Board of Education for September 1st, 2021 through August 31st of 2022. Mrs. Carlson, would you like to speak to that a little bit?
Yes, as you mentioned, it's a rollover. Some people like to call it an extension. We basically just extended the contract 1 year. With everything going on with COVID and the uncertainties of everything, we decided it was best just to hold steady with where we are this year into next year. I will work with the administrative team and the union body at the beginning of next school year to begin negotiations to renew an actual 3-year contract.
Okay, thank you. Next would be the South Range High School baseball team's trip in the spring of 2021 here to Myrtle Beach.
Yes, as you know, usually they have to ask permission a couple months in advance. Even though we have no idea what's going to be happening in April when it's time to go, they need to start planning and looking at this. So the baseball coach, Mr. Hannick, and the softball coach, Mr. DeRose, put together, and I know I shared it with you in the packet, pretty detailed what they're going to do to make sure the kids are safe if they are given permission to go. Parents driving the kids down, kids staying with the parents, not doing the group activities. So it's, in my eyes, it's kind of like a parent vacation who then takes their kids to a baseball game as if they were here. So they've put, and at the moment, Myrtle Beach is lower than we are. So looking at this, I feel they've done a pretty detailed job to at least give them the opportunity to start planning. We do not know what Ohio High School will hand out to us down the road, so I do just want to make a statement that, for our baseball parents and their softball parents, there is the risk Ohio High School could say we can't go, but I think they've pretty much laid out a very detailed plan of how to keep the kids safe and still experience this. And as we know, our weather doesn't let us to practice outside at this time, so this is an opportunity for them to get prepared for the season.
Okay, and I'm assuming the same, kind of the same scenario for the softball team.
Yes, they're gonna follow the same exact procedures.
Okay, pretty light agenda tonight. Before we vote on all these things, this would be the time for public participation for the January agenda items. If anybody would like to speak, I'd entertain them to come up now, state their name, and you have 2 minutes to speak on that.
Good evening. My name is Rick Strakansky. My daughter Jillian is a senior on the softball team. I would like to thank the board for hearing our request this evening. You've been required to make some very difficult decisions related to the COVID virus. As you're aware, many of these decisions are matters of risk assessment and have concerns and repercussions with effects and beyond the potential health concerns. We cannot turn on the TV or radio without being inundated with virus news updates and warnings. Tonight, I'd like to share an example of the risks and consequences of our decisions and approaches that sheltering from the virus create. My daughter started T-ball when she was in kindergarten. She fell in love with the game and has spent the last 12 years devoting a minimum 4 days a week to the sport. That equates to about 2,500 lessons, practices, workouts, and games, all with one goal in mind: playing softball for the South Range varsity, and led her all 4 seasons. She was able to reach her goal of playing varsity as a reserve her freshman year and earned a starting position her sophomore season. Unfortunately, stay-at-home orders ruined her chance at 4 letters and took away her trip to Myrtle Beach, including the junior season altogether. We're here tonight to determine if COVID will also take away her chance to represent South Range against top talent in Myrtle Beach one last time, or will she leave South Range with the memory of COVID taking away her high school career and turning her dedication and hard work into wasted time. I'm getting older and occasionally can't remember why I went into the kitchen, but I can remember just about everything I did during my senior year of high school. I'm not a virus denier, and I do not take the potential political and legal considerations of your decision lightly. However, I believe the risk to our team playing a week of softball in Myrtle Beach is not significantly different from the risk of other sports teams playing in Northeast Ohio. Coach DeRose has thoughtfully altered our usual itinerary to mitigate risk, and most activities will be outdoors. Coaches and parents will be present to make sure all health guidelines of South Carolina are followed. The only significant difference will be sleeping at the condominium as opposed to sleeping at home. Coach DeRose has taken steps to reduce the risk there as well. Also, since last spring, we have learned much about the virus and how best to avoid it while still functioning in our daily lives. We also have vaccines which are being mass distributed daily. In closing, I appreciate you granting me the opportunity to share. There are also risks to eliminating this event, and while this virus will eventually release its grip on our lives, how many dreams will be destroyed in the meantime? Every day we wake up, we face risks, but we each have to evaluate risks and determine which risks are consequential and which are not. My opinion is playing a softball game in South Carolina exposes little more risk than playing a softball game in Northeast Ohio, and we should participate in the Myrtle Beach event. I wish you luck in your judgment and trust you will make a wise decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Trinetta Gehring. Thank you for listening to me today. I am here speaking on behalf of the South Range baseball team. I'm a mother of a freshman player who is looking forward for making memories with his fellow teammates and his other brother who is a senior. I know for many of these players and families, this trip is something they look forward to, and they come home with memories that last a lifetime. Personally, I know that my senior is looking forward to his last experience in Myrtle Beach with his quote-unquote 30 brothers, even though he will not be taking the field this year himself. As always, the main goal is to win games and get better at playing the game. But there are many more positive benefits that come from this trip. The string baseball trip to Myrtle Beach helps build team camaraderie. Missing everything last year, trip and season included, has hurt the development of the team and the players in our quest for another state championship. Allowing the team to go on this spring trip will be furthering development of the younger players and allowing our senior players to make memories that they will carry with them forever. As a whole, the team benefits from this trip by playing better competition at an early stage in the season. This gives them preparedness and game experience to help them make a tournament run. A good portion of this team played travel baseball this past summer, traveling to states all over the country, including Georgia, Indiana, Florida, Michigan, and South Carolina. Because of the protocols and sacrifices that were put into place and followed by these players and their families, they all remained healthy throughout their summer season. We know that there will need to be adjustments and sacrifices compared to years past to make this year's trip safe and successful. Please consider bringing back some normalcy to these young athletes' lives. They, like many others, have been stripped of many of the traditions that they look forward to as a brotherhood of South Range baseball. This trip not only makes memories for our young athletes, but also helps some of our players get noticed by colleges, helping to further their education, as well as continuing to build upon the culture of family and togetherness that the South Range community has built around its students. In such uncertain times, that culture of togetherness is something our young athletes can and should depend on. On behalf of the South Range baseball team, we appreciate your consideration of this yearly trip. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else on any of the agenda items? Okay, seeing as there's none, we will go back and vote. First up, open enrollment for the 21-22 school year. May I have a motion to move on that?
I'll motion.
Terry makes the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Amy seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call.
Taylor Christian?
Yes.
Terry Lally,
Yes.
Ralph Wintz,
Yes.
Amy White,
Yes.
Brian Bagwell.
Yes.
Next up will be the approval for the agreement between the South Range Education Association and the South Range Local Board of Education for a rollover on the contract going from September 1st of 2021 through August 31st of 2022. May I have a motion to accept that agreement?
Taylor moves.
Taylor makes the motion. May I have a second?
Ryan seconds.
Ryan seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call.
Taylor Christian,
Yes.
Terry Lally,
Yes.
Amy White,
Yes.
Ralph Wintz,
Yes.
Brian Bagwell.
Yes.
And that carries. Next up will be the South Range High School baseball team trip for the 2021 school year. May I have a motion to accept the dates, providing that it's acceptable to go from higher authorities than us?
I move.
Terry makes the motion. May I have a second?
A second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the same for our high school girls softball team for same time or same trip and same time frame. May I have a motion for that?
I'll motion.
Terry makes the motion. May I have a second?
A second. Brian?
Brian makes a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And before we go to non-agenda items and public participation, just add a few comments. I appreciate all of the softball and baseball parents coming tonight. I absolutely personally do not have any problems with you guys going, providing that we're allowed to go and not breaking any laws in our state as far as in South Carolina too. The thing I would encourage you all as parents, I think we all, including everybody sitting up front here, I know that this past year or almost year has been very disappointing from different angles for different people, in that I would encourage you to as you talk to your sons and daughters, to encourage them that although we have had setbacks, I do think that that is part of life as well. And sometimes things that we want and think we should be able to do, sometimes circumstances prevent not. But we have to take that as a lesson to grow and develop as young adults, and hopefully as they become adults and parents of their own, they'll be able to share some of those same type lessons with their kids. But I know it has been very difficult, and for sure this board, I know everybody personally doesn't want to hold back our kids and those memories that we're going to create and stuff. So thank you for coming and being here tonight to support that. And again, I just hope that we can take away and some positive, because even though it's been negative things in our lives, I can assure you there are other people. Think of the folks in nursing homes and some of those that have missed loved ones and can't see them. I can attest firsthand that that's been very heartbreaking for a lot of those folks as well. At least with our own sons and daughters and every one of us here, we've been able to get up, get out, go in the summertime, do some things with some sense of normalcy in that. So again, I still think, even though all the heartache we've had, that we still are very blessed, a lot more than a lot of folks are. So with that, we'll open it up for non-agenda items and public participation for non-agenda items, again stating your name and also a 2-minute limit. Okay, seeing as there's none, next would be the January district update from our superintendent, Mrs. Carlson.
Yes, I actually don't have a lot since we've just come back to school. I just want to update a couple things for our community. The free and reduced lunch was extended, so all the students will receive free lunches through the end of the school year. Just a reminder to our parents, if the students want extras or an alternative lunch, then they would need money in their account, but this was extended, and it's actually a great thing for our school and the students. As I said in my one call before Christmas, I'm not making a one call unless it's going to impact the students positive was in the school. So as of right now, to date, we have had a few students over Christmas break who had tested positive, but they'd never stepped foot in the building. So was very fortunate last week to make probably the first week in 4 months that I didn't have to make a one call. So very pleased with that. I'm sure the community was as well. Our quarantine has changed. The governor has allowed, through some research and looking back in our data, the data that we have from close contacts actually becoming positive was even better than what the governor's study was. So we did a really good job with students sitting in a classroom that were identified as close contact didn't become positive. We did have some sports crossover, and we did have some out-of-school crossover, but the actual students who were quarantined that were sitting next to a positive case never came down with it. So we're very, very fortunate with that. So we will be making those adjustments mainly in grades 7 through 12 because they do not eat in their classroom. So if they are sitting within their classroom setting, they're roughly 5.5 feet or more, they will not get quarantined. However, we will still, the administration or I will still at least call the parents and just give them a heads up, just so if they do have somebody in the house that maybe is ailing or has an immune compromise, they should be alerted to it, but we will not be requiring them to quarantine. Elementary, we're still waiting on K-6 guidance from ODH because they eat behind barriers. If during that time when their mask is down, if right now we do have to count that as quarantine because the masks are off, but we're waiting on more guidance. But this should help a lot of, even just to calm people down, to let them know that what we're doing here is working. So to trust in what we have built, trust what the administrators are making sure is enforced is, I think this supports that with the change of the quarantine. So that was really good. Again, just, thank the community for kind of rolling with it before Christmas. I know we had a lot of staff that were quarantined or ill, and unfortunately we couldn't cover classrooms in a lot of areas, and we no longer can just push them all into one room like we used to be able to and have multiple classrooms in one. So we greatly appreciate that, but really appreciate the dedication, the staff coming in, making sure they were doing live instruction. All the staff that were home quarantined were still doing live instruction from home, even though they couldn't come in here, even some of them that weren't feeling good. We still today have teachers who maybe are home quarantined or just maybe not feeling good, so erring on the side of caution, are asking to remote in and still stay face-to-face with the kids. So cannot applaud our staff more than, they're just amazing what they want to continue to do. So that's really all I have for this month.
Okay. Thank you much. Next up would be personnel. We are very light tonight. I'd ask Mrs. Carlson, do you have any need for executive session?
No.
Okay. Seeing there is none, Mrs. Carlson, I'll throw it back to you for the light agenda of personnel.
Yes, I only have a substitute. YSU just recently had their graduation, so hopefully I can start getting a few more. But we have a new girl, Michaelyn Reeks. She has reached out to me, and she will be subbing for us, actually starting tomorrow, if she is approved. And then I also am asking the board to accept the resignation of Christine Miller, instructional aide, effective January 4th. She needed some time to take away to take care of family. She and I had a great conversation. She actually is she can be a certified sub in the classrooms, and she is planning on rejoining us either that way or if we ever need an aide again when she's able to come back to work.
Okay. Any questions from the board on personnel? Seeing as there's none, may I have a motion to accept the personnel?
So moved.
Amy moves. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call.
Taylor Christian,
Yes.
Terry Lally,
Yes.
Ralph Wentz,
Yes.
Amy White,
Yes.
Brian Bagwell.
Okay, and motion passes, and thank you very much. Lastly, I'd just like to add to Mrs. Carlson's comments to our staff and throughout the building, whether that be the teachers, whether that be our bus drivers, our janitors, our cafeteria workers. It is greatly appreciated the extent that the extra effort that all of you are putting forward does not go unnoticed. And I'd also like to, from the teacher standpoint, thank you and your membership for rolling over the contract for continuing it 1 year with everything else that we have going on this year. So this board appreciates it, and please relay that back to your teachers. With that, unless anybody else says something else, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment. Taylor moves.
Brian.
Brian moves.
Brian
Sorry,
moves.
Brian. Taylor, you want to second that?
Sure, yeah, I'll second.
Okay, Taylor seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned to the February meeting. Thank you all very much.